Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast. I am your host, Kevin Bradley, looking a little bit spiffier than usual. I've had to do a little bit of on-location work due to scheduling and having a wedding in the middle of a snowstorm. That is, never make friends with anyone from Rochester. Just a pro tip, because it's always cold here. But that's besides the point. We are here for an incredible episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast featuring one of our favorite guests returning fresh off of an incredible win. We'll be sure to get into it before we do. Brief shout out to sponsors of the show. No Judges Needed, your one-stop shop for all of your grappling apparel needs. I'm talking gis, rash guards, apparel, because what is the point of training if you can't tell people outside the gym that you train by virtue of your clothing? So once again, that is No Judges Needed. And for the holidays, you're looking to save a little bit of money. We have you guys covered. Use the promo code JJT at checkout for 20% off all purchases. You'd be helping us out. You'd be helping the show out and helping them out, helping yourselves out. Everybody helping everybody. It's the holidays, people. Let's get into it. Spirit of the season, even though 2020 has just been a kick in the dick every day for months now. Once again, that is www.nojudgesneeded.com, code JJT for 20% off. And a brief shout out to Kevin Gallagher. He couldn't make it today. Hey everyone, Future Kevin here. Now, originally Kevin was not scheduled to be on this episode. It was going to be a solo one, but turns out his schedule got free towards the end. He was able to hop in for the last little bit, so you're going to get your Kevin Gallagher fix. We draw straws whenever this guest comes on because we're just so terrified of him, and I am the sacrificial lamb that's got to kind of appease him whenever we want to talk to him about anything. So let's just get right into it. You know him, you love him. The teenage dream, fresh off of a heel hook win, Mr. Chase Hooper. And there he is. Mr. Hooper, how you doing, man?
Good. Just woke up probably like 45 minutes to an hour ago and just hanging out.
I mean, we appreciate you making the time, man, honestly, just because, holy shit. I've watched that fight like 20 times now. And we can't express how happy we are that you could take the time to talk with us about it. But just, since the last episode you came on, your stocks shot through the roof. How's life been treating you?
Pretty good. I'm really just trying to take Joe Rogan's old kind of motto to heart a little more. Like, just don't look at the comments, and your life's going to be a lot easier. And yeah, I've been trying to stay out of the rabbit hole of the social media comments, and then other than that, it's been pretty good.
I mean, it's funny because a lot of fighters, that seems to be good advice, but you have such a mastery of social media and that type of marketing that I almost kind of want to say, steer into it. I feel like you could probably navigate it better than most.
Yeah, I do a little bit, but just I don't know. It's such an onslaught of people just telling you like how terrible you are, and sometimes you just gotta like shut that out a little bit, or else then it just starts to eat away at you. So it's just kind of like I do it a little bit. Like I'll mess around with it, and like if there's something, the thing is, I don't mind people saying stuff that's like offensive as long as it's either original or like kind of funny. So, but just plain like boring and like, oh, you're a shitty fighter, like I'm like, okay, that's boring. But if they're original, I like it.
I gotta say my favorite, just because we recently on the JJT we had Dinu Bukalet, really made famous because of his incredible Ezekiel from inside closed guard at Polaris Squads a little bit ago, and he said he got a ton of crap from a bunch of like seasoned black belts over like that's not a good submission.
Oh yeah.
Does the quality, like does who the person is ever affect like how you treat criticism? Like if a fellow fighter on the roster as opposed to a guy named Daryl in his truck with like aviators on?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say like 99% of people that are like, negative on social media are people that, like work at Arby's or something, and they don't train, they don't know what's going on. But it's like the 1% that it's just like, oh, that sucks. It's like, yeah, definitely hurts a little more.
I mean, what's weird is like I feel like in other sports, shit talking kind of makes more sense because like Derek Jeter didn't strike out everybody. Man, that's a dated reference by now. But like LeBron uh, only won 87% of his games this year. Why not 90%? Because other sports kind of exist in this bubble, but MMA you could show up at a gym and UFC fighters are training there, and a lot of times you take the same classes. Does the lack of that barrier get to you ever?
I think that just kind of emboldens people a little more with the comment stuff. Like I've had people be like, "Oh, fighting's just so easy. You just just throw hands." Like they're like, "Oh, I got in a bar fight once when I was 21," and it's like, all right, well, it's a little different than that, but it's just because it's something that we do naturally. I guess people don't respect it as much. I think they don't respect the high levels as much, or they don't like delineate it from world star videos.
One of the things that I really loved last time was that you talked about I've only had two jobs. I've either been a pro fighter or I've taught jiu-jitsu, and you're like a very high level brown belt. Have you, as an instructor, have you ever gotten those guys that come in like weekend warriors thinking I can just show up and do this, like put me in the cage?
I think people are a little more hesitant with MMA. I think they're a little smarter about that. At least where I'm at right now, we're in a smaller town, so it's not like the huge influx of people just all the time that you might get in like somewhere like a Seattle or like obviously all those gyms out in California. I'm sure they get a lot of that.
I'm really sorry. Hard stop. Just like as a Northeast guy, the fact that your first thought when it was like the big city is Seattle, it just kind of made me laugh a little bit.
No, that's the big one around here. So.
Oh man, if you can make it in Seattle, you can make it anywhere.
No, it's just Seattle just kind of sucks. I try to stay out of it.
Oh man. Well, I'm not gonna. I haven't been there often enough to really comment on it, but I guess yeah.
It looks nice until you like zoom in. From a distance, you're like, oh, that looks pretty cool, and then you like get close and see all the dirt and the grime everywhere, and you're like, nah, I'm good.
I wanted to talk a little bit about when you came onto the show. You were, win after win after win, undefeated. You had your loss after the show. Walk us through a little bit about how that felt mentally for you.
Honestly, I was good to go. Like, I was hanging out with some of my buddies from Fight Pass and stuff, like watching the rest of the card. Like after, like 20 minutes after the fight, I was, heading over there to hang out. But I think, I don't know, the barrier to entry for MMA is like being, talented or whatever, or being good at what you do to the point where you can get to the UFC. But I feel like, once you get here, then it sort of separates the people who have more the mental strength. And for me, that's always kind of been my strong suit, I think. Like, kind of my mentality has always been, like, I'll never say no. Like, if people are like, hey, you good to go a couple extra rounds? I'll be like, maybe I don't want to, but I'll just be like, all right, sure, type of thing. Just stuff like that with just kind of everything I do. And obviously, like, it was my first, like, MMA loss. But I'd been doing jiu-jitsu tournaments as a kid growing up. So I've lost plenty of times. It's not my first one.
When did you start competing in jiu-jitsu, if you don't mind me asking?
I started training when I was 8. So probably my first tournament was, like, around then. Either 8 or 9. So.
Oh, wow. Man, was it a Naga or was it IBJJF?
No, we actually have a tournament around here that's it's called the Revolution. It's I think they started in like 2006, but now it's bigger than like IBJJF. Like they'll do the Seattle Open and it'll have like a quarter of the people that show up to this local tournament. Like we'll have people from like Montana, Idaho, Oregon, just everybody kind of coming over here for like 1,000+ competitors.
Wow.
Type of thing. So yeah. It's definitely a lot of good experience for all these people around here. And Yeah, that's what I grew up doing. So
It's got it. I mean, during COVID, I think it was bad when we had you on at first, but now, like as it's dried down, we've started to see jiu-jitsu gyms kind of sputter out here and there. How is the jiu-jitsu scene by you, if you don't mind me asking? Still healthy? Still like sticking to it?
yeah, I think things are, kind of getting back to normal. People are. I think the mentality of most of the people that tend to do jujitsu is a little more on the. I wouldn't want to say like conservative side, but they're just like dirtier people overall, so they don't mind the. They're like, oh, if I get sick type of thing. Same as like ringworm or staph. They're like, oh, it's just another thing I could get at the gym. But it's just kind of hard now with like all the, because Washington State got locked down, as I'm sure most of the rest of the country is now again.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of a lot more low key training, a lot less, putting it up on social media.
Oh man, but if you can't do it for the gram, did you even do it?
Yeah, that's definitely a big problem for me.
Has the space in between? I know MMA kind of established itself fairly early as a sport that can be done during quarantine. While everyone else was sort of picking up the pieces. Chael Sonnen and Dana White were doing their thing and finding out ways to do fights, whether it be in like Yas Island or the Performance Center. I guarantee we were this close to getting it on a boat. That was a joke, but I'm sure that was in the conference room at some point. Has these lull in between events made you want to do more grappling stuff? I know that was something we talked about briefly, but you are one of the highest pedigree grapplers, active in the UFC right now.
Yeah, definitely. I really do want to do more grappling. I actually got hit up to do Chael's show this weekend, but my leg's still a little torn up, and I didn't quite like the idea of having my leg be super bruised up and then have some dude trying to rip my knee apart,
Did they have an opponent in mind for you, or were they just like open spot, yours if you want it?
Yeah, it was like a super short notice one against one of Chael's guys. So obviously, I kind of followed my better judgment and was like, all right, not this time, but if you guys have any more openings, let me know. Maybe give it 2 weeks and then I'll be on the next show or something. But yeah, I'd like to do more jiu-jitsu stuff. It's just kind of, what I grew up doing. So it's a little more fun for me. I don't know, kind of a little bit of nostalgia to kind of go in there and not have to worry about getting my face split open or like, not have to worry about getting knocked out on TV type of thing. It's a little lower stakes, but still, fun.
I think that I think it was Gary Tonin who talked about this fairly recently, and that's he's made quite a name for himself over at One, but that like after enough times in the cage, really after one, I think he said jiu-jitsu tournaments are just like his heart rate doesn't even spike up anymore just because it's so much different. How long did you find that immediately, or do you? Were they both fairly similar in the beginning?
No, because jiu-jitsu tournaments, like, there's just so many different mats going on at the same time. So it's like, like maybe there's 12 people watching me right now. And like, I'm just doing this to, get the experience and try to get some like shiny piece of metal.
Or a sword.
Yeah. I'm sad I never got a sword, but I got a belt from Naga. The one
you know for a fact that if you just decided to win a Naga, you could go and dominate and get like 10 swords. You know that, right?
I did it, but they gave me a belt. I think for some reason at that event they were giving the swords to kids, and I don't know why they decided that, but
okay. So obviously you messed up. What you should have done was beat up a kid, take his sword, then leave.
Well, I was only like 16 at the time, but I did the adult division, so it was like a weird thing where I probably could have gone either way. But yeah, so the difference between the MMA fights and the jiu-jitsu is like just there's so much pressure on this one single match versus like a jiu-jitsu tournament when you're like, okay, I have this match and then I have, 2 or 3 more. Like I don't. Yeah, I think it did correlate with my fighting a little bit. But like my last jiu-jitsu tournament was, I think, right after my pro debut, um, and it was, yeah, I didn't get up for it at all. I was just like, all right, I'm gonna go out here and it's gonna be just like I do at the gym type of thing. And then I don't think I got a single point even scored against me, but it was just like there's something to be said for having that kind of cool under pressure type of outlook going into like a tournament like that.
All right. Now, I got a little bit, since you brought up Submission Underground, I'm a huge fan of it. My channel impression's pretty good. Maybe I break it out later. But I think what a lot of people love about Submission Underground and arenas like that are it gets MMA fighters and jiu-jitsu stars and even like wrestling guys all in the same room interacting in ways we wouldn't normally see if we just did an MMA fight or a jiu-jitsu match. It's sort of blending in some ways. And I want to know, I'm pretty sure I asked you this last time, but I want to know since then, are there any matchups grappling only that you would love to have in the Submission Underground cage?
Ooh, I don't know. I'd like to go against more UFC fighters or, stuff like that. I think I could, give a lot of guys kind of a run for their money just because my style's so weird. One that I'd like maybe if I bulk up a little more is old George Masvidal. I'll try to, get the family honor back. But that's kind of...
Now, hypothetical, and anyone, and Heather, if you're watching this, Heather Standing from SUG, feel free to take this $1 billion idea. I know you're not doing tag team matches right now, but say you bring them back, the Askren boys, Sugar Sean, Chase, coached by Ben, like he's in the corner, and then on the other side, anyone that any of you guys have ever had a beef with. And it's just some massive tag team pro wrestling situation.
That'd be interesting for sure. I actually did a tag team kickboxing fight once. That was interesting.
How did that work?
It was like a smoker still. So it was like, just in a gym type of thing. But they were pretty much like, oh, anybody who shows up, we'll get him a fight type of thing. So there ended up being like 60 dudes there. So they were like, all right, we're going to have like 30 fights. But hey, if any of you guys want to just do a tag team match, we'll put you at the beginning. And since I was the only guy, like from our gym, I was like, or my coach was like, hey, this is probably, way better than being here till like midnight, and yeah,
you get knocked out. You can get knocked out early and we can go home.
Yeah.
How old were you? Just because you're so young now, how old were you at the time?
I was probably 15 or 16.
You were 15 and you agreed to take on a tag team kickboxing fight?
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to get into it and, I've been getting beat up by pro fighters for a little bit already, so it wasn't too bad.
I just gotta, I think, I don't know if any journalist has just straight up had the stones to ask you, so I'm going to do it. Is your home life okay? Like, are your parents, like, they treat you good? Because, you're a little too old for it now, but Child Protective Services can come in and maybe help.
Actually, I'm on my own. I'm living free right now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, just me and my girlfriend. We got a house, got all that. So, yeah, life's good.
Does she appreciate the fighter lifestyle? She's supportive?
Yeah, she's super down with it. I've been with her since I only had one pro fight, I think. So, she was with me when I was making, $1,000 for the night, once a month type of thing. So yeah, she knows. And, I think she, is definitely more down with it now that I'm making like significant money and can kind of take care of the bills and all that.
How has it been, as I'm a little older, as you can tell by my hairline, but being young and coming into that kind of money, with finances, has that been a trouble, like an area you've had to master? Like, are you getting financial advice from people? If you don't mind me asking, I know that's kind of a personal question.
I don't know. Like, I feel like everybody, at least around me, has been pretty cool and like just kind of understands that I can kind of take care of myself as far as that goes. Like I've always paid my taxes. I'm not just spending all my money and pretending like that's not, some of that's not the government's type of thing. But yeah, I think, I don't know, it's kind of cliche, but I think I'm more on the mature side for my age. So people kind of see that and then they're like, okay, he's not just going to blow all his money and he's not just going to, buy one like Gucci suit and then be out and then, having to work a real job type of thing. Because at the end of the day, that's kind of my thing is I don't want to have to work a real job right now. So,
it's not great. Yeah.
So metering out the money is kind of, a big part of that. I'm not trying to live that Mike Perry lifestyle.
I was tempted to bring him up earlier just because it feels like whenever you engage on social media, it's like all you do is you look at anything Mike Perry is doing and go, yeah, I'm just not going to do that. That seems like a lot of hassle.
Yeah, for sure. No face tattoos yet. So
like once you've defended your the featherweight belt like 2 or 3 times, maybe you can just like go crazy with it.
I will see.
Yeah, I gotta say that it's really good to hear just because I know you are very mature for your age, because I know people like in their mid to late 20s that still don't really know how to do their taxes. So you know, keep on that grind, man. It can be a lot, and it's good to know that you're keeping your head on. And also from your social media, you and your lady seem very cute together. So congratulations to you there.
Oh, thank you.
But any luck getting her on jiu-jitsu? Like in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, she's been training for a couple of years now. She's actually a blue belt. And she's got kind of a similar body type to me, but smaller. So I think, being a little longer and a little taller definitely helps out. And now I'm just trying to see if I can get her to compete once everything opens back up. I think that'd be interesting.
I mean, that's got to be the move. And I'm very fortunate in that I'm with someone who is very supportive of my jiu-jitsu journey. Is not cool with the jiu-jitsu itself, but is there at practice, like with cakes and cookies. So that's great. That works out. That's the way you got to go. So let's talk a little bit about. I swear we're going to get into your fight. That's why we want to have you on. But this is the last little thing I got to talk about, just because it's kind of unfortunately consumed the world of combat sports right now, and that is the Paul brothers. I don't know how familiar you are with them, but Logan and Jake Paul, 2 brothers, big on YouTube. They've made a name for themselves recently as like celebrity boxers, where they'll box like other internet celebrities, which is cool, I guess. And they've fiddled with the idea of the UFC, and it looks like now Dylan Dennis, Unity black belt and Bellator fighter, might be angling to fight one of them. And I just want to know how much of this it reaches you as you're a busy full-time athlete. And do you ever fiddle with the idea of just taking an easy payday and like trying to start some beef with some internet guy for $1 million?
I think it's kind of unavoidable as far as, seeing all that stuff goes. Like you just open up social media and you're like, oh, here it is again type of thing. But I really think that they're smart enough that I don't think they would fight MMA. I think they understand to a point that, if they were to just get taken down, it wouldn't be, worth it, especially money-wise, when they can make millions just boxing versus, having to worry about everything all at the same time. I don't know. I'm not really that type of guy to like start drama or whatever, like just try to start beef with anybody. But, a paycheck always sounds nice. And I think that's why so many people are, jumping on it. You see like everybody under the sun's trying to call out either one of them. And it's kind of, I don't know. It's definitely a long shot on everybody's end, because I think they're more the A side in this, so they get to pick and choose whoever they want. And they're not going to fight like these super crisp strikers. And it's just kind of, I don't know. People are thinking that they're more accessible than they are right now. And it's kind of, I'm interested to see how it shakes out for sure.
I do think that's again, shockingly reasonable and like measured response in a sport where there's 87 different athletes nicknamed Pitbull. So I applaud you, Mr. Hooper, on keeping a level head. But just because I have a garbage brain and I want to just devolve for a little bit, how fast do you sleep these guys? Like, assuming it's MMA, assuming you can just take them to the ground, do whatever you want to them. Keep in mind they're wrestlers. They wrestled in high school. They're bigger dudes. But how fast do we hear a pop?
I think I fought tougher wrestlers, I'm going to say.
I would hope so, yeah.
in person, because I feel like the size is a huge difference as far as, getting it to the ground goes. But, I don't imagine that they would have a very good heel hook defense. So that's an option, obviously, if the wrestling doesn't work out. But I think when you do fight those bigger guys, like if you're the smaller guy, you can be a little more scrambly and kind of, work your way around them easier.
I like that you're honest about it, because sometimes grapplers will say things about matchups that you know for a fact is not going to happen. Like in my head, I was thinking back to Nicky Ryan. I think it was It was some event. He was going up against like a stud wrestler, like Olympic team. And he made all this fuss about, like, I'm going to try and take him down, and I'm going to make this a big thing. And then what happens in the match? Literally 30 seconds in, pulls guard, hunts the leg, gets the heel hook, because that's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I have no problem doing that.
I know. Just be honest about it, because we like that. It's fun, it's what you're good at. All right, so let's get right into it. It's the morning of the 12th. You got the fight later that day. Walk us through a little bit of that morning for you.
For me, like post weigh-ins, so much of my time is just dedicated to eating and rehydrating type of thing. So pretty much just stuffing myself full of food. But the morning of was always pretty chill, but it's just kind of, you're counting down the hours, you're counting down the minutes, type of thing. And it's just really waiting for them to be like, okay, your fight kits are in your workout room. Go get them, go get changed. And then, meet us downstairs in an hour and we'll take you over to the venue. And it's just like, oh, all right. Sounds good. But yeah, it's just like a lot of nothing pretty much that whole week. Besides the weight cutting stuff, was just hanging out in the hotel room. And then it's just like a whole lot at the same time, like kind of at once. I was like, all right, get your stuff, get ready. You're heading over there. Just so you know, once you get there, you have to pee in the cup while this dude's watching you. I'm like, okay, sounds good. And then I actually had a record-setting, drug test, probably 15 seconds from start to finish. So that was good for me.
The cleanest man in America.
Yeah, for sure. And then, you just kind of go back to the workout room. And, being the first fight, it was nice because I get the opportunity to just be like, okay, I want my hands wrapped right now. I want my gloves on right now too. And I'm going to start warming up. And it's like, okay, you have 2 hours. Which was much better than the last one where I only had probably, like an hour and a half in the workout room type of thing, or in the warm-up room at the venue. Yeah, so it's nice to just have that extra time. And then it's kind of funny because you get to watch, they do a lot of the testing stuff for their production, but they leave like the TVs on in there so you can kind of watch it. So it's just some dude from the, production crew just like walking out while they're testing the graphics. And it's like, oh, this is, this is Jose Aldo. And it's just some dude with like a hat on and a sweatshirt just from the UFC, just walking around and stuff, just so they can get like the timing or whatever. I don't know. But that's kind of one of the interesting, like behind the scenes type things. But we were just hanging out pretty much until we started the warm-up, and then, it's just kind of business as usual from there.
Real quick, it felt so good to see Aldo win, just for me personally. I'm such a huge fan of him and I know it's been a rough patch, so just now you seem like a pretty analytical guy, like looking into ways to shore up your game. Were you drilling a lot of bottom attacks and other things?
Yeah, always. Because we really thought going into this fight that he might, be more of a wrestler than he turned out to be. Because watching like his contender fights, and his UFC debut, he was more had that like Usman style. So a lot of our training kind of around the grappling and the wrestling was just kind of getting off the wall and not getting like held up against the cage while he can just kind of, sit there and, score points or whatever, have the control. But yeah, the thing with the bottom control was just kind of, again, the same thing of not getting stuck on the bottom. So just trying to kind of work from there.
Yeah, that was a big factor in this fight. Looked like a lot of aggression on the feet, and we got to see some of your defense and how you react to that pressure. But I think, for my money, we've definitely not seen you take as much on the feet before bringing it to the ground in previous matches. Did you feel the same way, or am I a little off base on there?
Yeah, I mean, I felt super comfortable pretty much the whole time. Aside from the leg kicks, obviously, and I was letting him kind of control the distance too much. But I felt great defense-wise. Like, not a single strike kind of landed to my face. If it did, it was like kind of a glancing shot, like more off to the side, but nothing clean. So that was kind of my main thing going into this fight with the striking, was I didn't want to just, keep taking all these shots that I didn't need to and like not blocking. And, I felt like I did a good job of that. And now it's just kind of keeping up that defense, obviously, but kind of working on, just making the striking a little crisper, a little faster, making sure that I'm in position and all that, and just kind of, building up from here. But I feel like it was a really big improvement on my end from the last fight and the fight before.
I mean, you reacted incredibly well, and I think that's something I've seen a lot of other pundits sort of take note, especially considering how young you are, is that you reacted to those leg kicks a lot better than a lot of other grapplers, just because of how important your legs are. For those of our audience that maybe haven't gotten kicked in the leg before, I have one time, and that's why I'll never fight MMA. Talk about how you react as someone that goes in to shoot or goes in to do other sorts of takedowns where the legs are such a huge, important part of the equation.
I don't know. The adrenaline takes care of quite a bit of it as far as the pain goes. But, you got probably a good 2 or 3 leg kicks before you start feeling it. And kind of, I don't know, it slows you down a little bit, but it's not, it's not the end of the world, obviously. But it's just kind of, I felt at the moment I just needed to kind of get his mind off of that and get it back to the fight. To get the fight back, I needed to get his mind off of just kicking my leg and kind of, chopping it off.
I've got to say, I thought, I want to be eloquent, but the only thing I was thinking was, oh shit, it's just they looked like they hurt, man. But your head movement looked really good, and it looked like you were avoiding a lot of damage. What kind of drills were you doing with regards to evasion and strikes on the feet?
Honestly, we're doing a lot of more like live stuff for this one, because I just hate like hitting mitts and stuff all the time. So one of the big ones was kind of, I'd have some of our guys throw on like the boxing gloves, and then I just throw on some of the smaller MMA gloves. And essentially I would just work on, we'd kind of spar from there, and I just work on, kind of blocking or getting out of the way. And then, they have the bigger gloves so they can hit me a little harder. And I have the smaller gloves so I don't have the same kind of shield that you would with a boxing glove. And I feel like that was a really good kind of, I like drills like that, where it's like a little more situational with the sparring. And I feel like that was definitely a big help for, keeping my face looking pretty decent.
I have to wonder if your time fighting 60 guys in a underground tag team kickboxing match might have helped you there as well, just because that's a ridiculous sentence that I've said now.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the problem is that my grappling is so much better than my striking. And then, so it was able to get me to this point. And then just kind of in comparison, it looks so much worse when you just watch one versus the other. But I don't think it's as bad as it looks sometimes.
Oh, hang on 1 second. We have Mr. Kevin Gallagher available.
What's up, Chase? How are you, bro?
Hey, how's it going?
You good though? You slept well?
Yeah, so I've been coaching. I apologize, Chase. I'm sorry for missing out on this week, but I've been coaching. I coached all weekend at the Worlds and just woke up. I had my Christmas party for the gym last night. And I'm maybe a bit hungover, but I'm super excited to talk to you. So let's get to this, man.
Yeah.
Well, you look well rested, Val. So happy you joined us.
When you said we're going right now, I was like, oh shit, really? Can I splash some water on my face?
All right, so Chase, talk us a little bit through how you reacted to the pressure. You get into the leg entanglements. What are the next steps from your point of view?
Yeah, so I kind of, obviously I've been saying it a lot, but I trained with Ryan Hall for, a good week and, stayed at his house and everything. And one of the things that I was really trying to get when I was down there was, some of his kind of kicking stuff on the feet, which I'm still kind of working on, but also the Imanari stuff, because I felt like it's just such a natural, like he showed it to me and I, drilled it a couple times and I was like, oh, this feels super natural, in comparison to, me shooting a double leg, having more of that jiu-jitsu style anyways with my takedown type stuff. Where I'm not super explosive, I feel like the kind of rolling into stuff was really, beneficial for me. But I just kind of, I'd thrown it out there earlier in the fight, and it was kind of like a so-so. And I was like, okay. I was able to get in there well. He's not throwing any knees, so I don't have to worry about, taking anything to the face while I go down there, I don't think. So, yeah, I threw a couple shots just to kind of get the hands up. And then, I kind of dove for it. And yeah, I snagged up that leg, and I was just trying to work for that kind of, I think Gary Tonin and those guys call it like the honey hole type position.
Yeah.
But yeah, the nicest thing about jiu-jitsu is MMA jiu-jitsu versus regular jiu-jitsu is, when you get in a spot where the guy's just defending, all he's doing is just kind of holding on to you. Like he had both of my gloves, which the gloves make it really hard to get, your hands free and stuff, but once you get the one free, you just start hitting him. I feel like that really helps out in a lot of these kind of stagnant positions.
Right.
Versus like a jiu-jitsu match where I'd have to kind of...
Hang on, I'm just sorry. I just felt Wagner Rocha violently pressing like on this video before it's even released.
Yeah. You can definitely see that in his combat jiu-jitsu matches, but it helps so much just kind of like versus where I'd have to, kind of throw something else out there to kind of see if the guy would, focus on that. I'm just able to hit him in the face and it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you say that because when I the leg locks have, not recently. I used to say recently, but it's been years now. Have recently become a part of jiu-jitsu, submission jiu-jitsu culture. And there was a short period of time where if you knew leg locks, you were just like some kind of God that walked across the earth. No one else knew what was going on. You could submit people at will. And there are still some people, Craig Jones, and there's another guy out there, Elijah Crane, the Dinger, Jeff. That's what guys that are preeminently like leg lock guys. But a lot of times now, because people are starting to learn the leg lock game, you get stopped in a position like honey hole, and it's stalemated. That honey hole position. A lot of times it takes a lot of times to work. You have to push the leg across. You have to reach down and find the heel. You have to clear space and all those things. But like you said, just like other positions from jiu-jitsu, when you add in the elements of striking, now people immediately have to go, oh shit, I can't just sit here and hold on to things because Chase is going to punch me in the face until he does. And then in that moment of scramble, you get a heel hook out of that.
Mm.
That's Go ahead, kid.
Oh, yeah, I feel like it's the same with a lot of the positions. Like if someone has a really good half guard and they're just kind of holding on to you, you're like, okay, I just need to get enough space just to start hitting the dude.
Right.
Then,
It's amazing when you think about, because I always talk about this a lot. One of my favorite things to talk about when I teach my classes, I make sure I say, hey, here's the deal. Like I've taught MMA, I've never fought MMA, but whatever. I've sparred, I boxed for a long time. I'm too old for that shit. But I had, I boxed, I did MMA, I've wrestled, I've done a lot of self-defense stuff, I bartend and stuff like that. So I understand like the ideas. Anyway, the point of the matter is whenever I teach something, I always tell people, this is the sport jiu-jitsu kind of variation of it. And this is what you do in a self-defense MMA type situation. And every one of them has a different scenario. Like mount is a perfect example. Like when I'm going for a mount in an actual, in a sport jiu-jitsu setting, or we're just training at the gym, there are so many other things I need to do in order to finish an armbar, or to finish a Kimura, or to get someone to go to the back. Because, if there's no benefit of strikes involved, a guy could just sit here like this and you're never going to move his arms. As soon as you start punching him in the face, everything changes. So the arms start to come up. Guys put their arm, they do whatever, they turn to their back for you, and you don't have to go down that line. And the jiu-jitsu of reality and self-defense and MMA a lot of times is not, I want to say less technical, but you don't have to go as far down the line,
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the thing, is when people specialize, it just kind of, evolves from there, and you have to add all these layers to it. But then at the end of the day, the most effective is going to be, a mix of a little bit of everything. So obviously a little bit of wrestling, a little bit of jiu-jitsu. You throw the strikes in there and it's like, oh, this is a perfect way to beat all these guys. And it just kind of, I think it works out so much better than just relying on jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Wait. Real quick. Chase, are you saying that mixed martial arts is about mixing martial arts? That's like
it makes it easier.
Whoa, that's crazy, man. I'm sorry.
I got a question I want to ask you while I got you on the line, because this is something that I'm curious about, because I have one of the things I tell my students a lot, and my young guys a lot that come to start training, my young amateurs that want to start training with me, that say they want to make it to the UFC, because everybody says they want to be a UFC fighter. I'm like, okay, cool, sure, absolutely. I will listen to them and I'll say, sure, you could be a UFC fighter, but then I don't take it with a grain of salt, because if I'll talk to me again in 5 years from now, you know what I mean? When you've had 8-9 fights and it's been 10 years and you're still not making any money, and you follow what I'm talking about the whole trade. It's not easy. That is the reason why everybody can't do it. The main question I wanted to ask you is the idea of, when I have new guys come in and they want to start training, I tell them specifically that they should you can't just do MMA class. You can't just come in here and say, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to go to MMA sparring and I'm going to do that every week because I want to focus on being an MMA fighter. So the other elements of jiu-jitsu aren't important to me. So as you were coming up, I asked you this specifically because I consider you to be like the new breed of fighter. Like, I imagine that you're someone that you've probably been training since you're 10 years old, 8 years old. Am I right? Am I right in that accord?
Yeah, I started at 8.
Exactly.
Just been going ever since.
So my question to you is this: if you were to take someone new, fresh off the block, and tell them their recipe to get to the UFC, would you tell them specifically, look, I know you want to be an MMA fighter, but in order to do that, you have to train specifically the arts of MMA, striking, and wrestling individually instead of just working on the idea of doing MMA sparring inclusively? I'm just curious as to how you got there.
Yeah, definitely. I think that you need to kind of work on the separate, kind of aspects, and then, add it all together for the MMA stuff. Like our gym, the MMA is, invite only. So you have to have been training for a couple years already to even, walk in that door for the class, or for that, time slot. And you see it even at the high level. You see all these guys that have like zero grappling, and it's kind of like the striking will only get you so far, and then you'll fight a wrestler and you'll be kind of, just put on your back and you're like, oh, I have no idea what's going on. So I feel like it's a huge factor, is just kind of, trying to be as well-rounded as possible, but not not just doing it exclusively for MMA, like just kind of trying to take each individual sport, because it's again that same thing where it's kind of evolved for each individual sport. Like if you're a really good wrestler, you won't even have to go to the same levels that you do when you're wrestling as when you're fighting MMA. Same thing as jiu-jitsu. Like I don't have to go through like 30 transitions in order to hit an armbar. You know, I can just hit the guy in the face, like I was saying earlier. It's kind of that same thing.
Right.
But there's no downside to having that extra little bit of technique if you need it, I think.
No, I agree with you 100%. And like, you know, you can watch MMA matches and you can tell yourself that, yeah, the majority of things you see are oftentimes, you know, very simplistic, you know, entries and things like that. But they're also not. You know, there's also opportunities where you see some very advanced, complicated jiu-jitsu, and you go, oh, wow. And even more than that, like jiu-jitsu, when we talk about jiu-jitsu specifically, we can also talk about it in all the different elements. There's parts of wrestling that you're not going to really do a lot in an MMA match. There's parts of boxing and striking that, you know, I mean, you're not going to see a lot of guys throw head kicks and turn all the way, you know, different things like that. They do, but it's not something that you would consider to be, you know, something that should be done all the time. You know, the point I'm trying to say is that as your individual fight IQ arises and gets better in each individual element, your inclusive fight IQ in each aspect, you know, in my MMA grows as well. And you can't really do that all the time just by focusing on MMA, because you don't get to go into the deep details, because an MMA coach isn't going to show you those cool spinning heel kicks that you see that you see in a striking class, because he's just probably not going to be as advanced in that knowledge.
Yeah.
The more knowledge is better, is I guess the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And that's what I'm trying to do right now is, you know, these times between fights, I'm trying to make the most of it and just, you know, train with some of these high level guys in more of the specific, you know, settings, like how I was able to train with Ryan Hall, or I was able to go train with old Ben and learn some wrestling. It's just, you know, trying to do stuff like that and just furthering those singular, you know, kind of elements of my game so that it gets better overall.
You kind of look like Ben Askren's little brother. I'm sure Kevin already said that.
Oh my no, Kev, you are so late to the.
I'm sure I missed an entire like 5-minute conversation.
Well, no, Kev, his whole like Chase's like half of his social media account is talking about how he's Ben Askren's son, and like.
I'm old. I hardly ever look. I'm gonna follow you now, though, kid.
I'm sorry. We just got Kev his first rotary phone the other day.
I know.
Nice.
It's turning the dials. Yeah. Chase probably doesn't even know what a rotary phone is.
But I would love to. He was born in 1999. Doesn't that make you feel like terrible?
That's to the heart, kid.
Oh man! But I would love to briefly go over just like how it felt to train with Ben. You know, with his wrestling IQ. Like, for as little as you did you come away learning a little bit more, like gleaning new insights, or was it just really good rounds?
Yeah, I feel like you know, kind of one side of it is that I don't think that I appreciate it as much as like a traditional wrestler would, you know, getting to train with someone like Ben, who's, you know, literally Olympic level, like one of the top guys, you know, and has done it so well and like made it transfer to MMA so well. But I still had a good time because he's you know, he's great at teaching. He, like, all his gyms are kind of wrestling academies, so it's more kind of, you know, off to the side where he'll do more like wrestling MMA and kind of you know, because he understands that same thing of like you don't kind of get to those same levels of the game, you know, with MMA, because it's, again, like you're doing everything all at once, so you don't need to kind of go as deep. But he has a lot of good kind of little tips and like little tricks that I feel like, you know, don't take a long time to learn, but it's just kind of, you know, understanding the mentality that he has of, you know, why those work, and, you know, just trying to kind of soak up as much as I could.
Yeah, man. Ben is definitely, you know, one of the premier wrestlers on the planet. You know, there's no question about it. He's top 25 wrestlers, you know, in the world right now, unquestionably, maybe higher. You know, maybe I'm not giving him enough credit. But, you know, to be able to pick the brain of someone with that much knowledge to understand how to further small little details. I'm always amazed at that. Anytime I go to any kind of seminar, anytime I ever have any kind of interaction with someone that is, you know, an absolute world-class practitioner of their field, you know, you may go in there looking to work on a single leg or double leg or whatever your plan is to try to brush up on. But what you'll find is it's just the smallest little details that are so completely unrelated to anything you had to think about. Like, it has nothing to do with the single leg. Maybe it's just an idea of putting a grip here instead of here, putting pressure in the oddest place you'd never consider to think about will completely change your entire understanding of what wrestling is or what your objective is.
And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't at least ask, did he give you the secrets of the spinning back fist? He's gonna
I've
kick my
studied his
ass one
film
day.
plenty, so I studied his film plenty, so I think I had most of it by the time I got down there.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So Chase, I got another. You still got a few minutes, kid. I'm sorry I woke up late.
Yeah.
I appreciate
no
it. I'm sorry for disrespecting you by I've had a really long weekend. This weekend's been a marathon for me. The Worlds are in my area in Orlando. I've been back and forth doing that and coaching and all kind of stuff. But anyway,
it's all good.
So I have a quick question for you again here. It was something that intrigues me about particularly you individually is that, I train a lot with younger kids like yourself, that 18, 19 years old, even the younger ones, 15, 16, I imagine you started probably doing MMA sparring, at that age with grown adults at that point, I'm imagining. And one of the things I kind of notice about that is that as a grown man, sometimes the kids are way, way more talented than me, way, way more athletic than me. And maybe at one time I might have had it, but I'm old. I ain't got it no more. But what I can do is kind of break them mentally simply because I'm older and stronger and tougher and meaner. And I could do things and work inside of their brain to kind of get them to shut down. And one of the things that I notice about you that I'm just so supremely impressed by is the fact that you don't break like that. Like you don't I've seen you have pressure exerted on you at extreme levels, and your ability to maintain your calm at the fight with Caceres, even though you lost. I was supremely amazed at your ability to just keep fighting and coming forward. I'm sure Dana White and the rest of the crew were as well. Tell me about where that comes from you, because it's really not uncanny for someone your age to have that.
I think it's I don't know. I think I've always been pretty mentally tough as far as that goes. But for me, my mentality always going into fights is hey, it's only 15 minutes. That's like half an episode of, whatever on TV. So it's such a short amount of time. For me, when I'm in there, it's just kind of a blur anyways. So it's just kind of, realizing that hey, 20 minutes from now, I'm going to be done. This is all going to be over. All the pressure is going to be off. And it's just kind of about making it less, emotional, just kind of being more robotic about it. Okay, this is the task. I'm going to try to accomplish it as quickly as I can, but I have 15 minutes to do it. And, it's kind of going out there and seeing if I can do that. Because I've been beat up, my whole life, training, obviously. And training when I started doing MMA, I was going with all these pro guys, that are, 170, fighting at 170, walking around at 190 type of thing, beating up 15-year-old me.
Yeah, let's walk around probably about $150 at the most at that point.
Yeah, so it's just kind of, I think I already had it to begin with, but that stuff just kind of, it's the make or break type stuff where, if I didn't have the mentality that I did, I think I wouldn't, be doing this, obviously. I think I would have quit a little sooner.
Was there ever any concern? I'm just curious, from your coaches, were any of your coaches ever hey, Chase, you're too young to be doing this. You shouldn't be getting beat up. I'm we're going to kind of pull you back. You shouldn't be out there with these big guys getting back. Did you ever experience any of that?
No, I think, because I've been training for so long, they were all right, this is kind of the next step. We'll start looking for fights if you want that. And then, that's kind of just the path that I wanted to pursue. But, having already been training for, 8 to 10 years at the time that I was looking for my first amateur MMA fight, it's kind of a huge, step up in comparison to these guys that have maybe been training, 6 months to a year. So I think they kind of, gave me the first fight. We're okay, we'll see how this goes. And then it just kind of kept going from there.
Yeah. I mean, watching you when you compete and watching you when you fight, it really is a true testament to the level of technique that you have, and the fact that having that technique is, it's designed to trump athleticism. It's designed to trump the tougher guy, or for lack of a better word, it's designed to trump the bigger, stronger person. Because I hardly ever do I see you as I see you, and I'm super excited to watch you grow into that man body. You know what I'm talking about? Get that man strength. But I mean, it's true. When you're 19 years old, you haven't really. You still got time to go. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing to see you this good technically.
Kev, you missed it. He was telling me earlier about how he did a tag team kickboxing fight when he was like 15 or 16. I don't know. I think we would have to reanimate a T-Rex to get this guy scared. And even then, his first thought's going to be, I could probably choke it, and then he'll try.
That's funny, man. That's funny. So I got one more. I got a couple more if you got time. I'm super excited to talk to you because I'm a big fan of yours, man.
Thank you.
I just love, like, in my mind, you are what the next generation of MMA fighter, jiu-jitsu practitioner is going to be. You are the kid, because I see him now at my gym all the time. I didn't start training jiu-jitsu until I was 30. You know what I mean? And like, I have a good hold on things, but like at the same time, I've only been training for 12 years. I'm 44 years old now.
Yeah.
Looking at you, I think of someone that not only has been training for 15 years now, 10 years, 12 years, something like that.
Probably 12 or 13.
Anyway, right? So you have as much mat knowledge and time as I do, but you have also had the benefit of training and learning at that age when your brain is designed to learn. Like when you're a kid, you pick things up all the time. I used to do this all the time. Like I'll be teaching. I have a family I work with right now. I do private lessons with they're a couple, a married couple, and they have 2 kids, and I will teach entire hour of jiu-jitsu, and like the parents are literally like hanging off my every word, paying attention. And then the kids, you gotta force them to listen. Hey, do this. And then at the end of the class, it's almost across the board. The kids will execute the techniques up better than the parents almost 90% of the time, just because their ability to learn at that age is so high. So when I think of you, I think about that next generation of MMA phenoms that are learning at an accelerated rate at a very young age to be very, very deadly. And I'm excited for their future.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot like any other sport where, like you start kids off at wrestling, 8 years old. It's going to be kind of the same thing where you just kind of have to watch them and not like push them too much. I feel like that's the biggest thing is, it was always me pushing myself to, keep doing the next thing. But I think there's definitely a lot of those like wrestler type of parents that are going to push their kids too much because they're like, oh, I want to see my kid in the UFC because they didn't win the big game in high school. So they're trying to live through their kids. And I think they're going to burn a lot of kids out. But it's really just finding those kids that legitimately want to do it for themselves and not because their parents want them to do it. And I think that'll be kind of interesting to see how that progresses, I think.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited about it because I see it in the jiu-jitsu world right now. I see guys that were out there, training from a young age. You've got, the Tackett kids. You've got, what's the other guy's name? Garcia or Gonzalez. He fought this weekend. I forget his name. Kev, what's the kid's name? The young kid, the jiu-jitsu phenom that fought a couple weeks ago. He submitted Kenny Cornelius in the gi.
He submitted Kenny Cornelius. Sorry,
Anyway, not important.
But yeah,
I forget his name, but it's not important. So one more question. I got a couple more. I got something else I want to ask you is, so when I think about as an adult that wants to be an MMA fighter, and I see all the guys that I work with and all the training with, there's this feeling of like, honor and trying to go for greatness and wanting to be this amazing fighter that's solidified in history as one of the great ones, or going out to be a world champion, all those other things like that. And I think of that a lot as a very adult like concept. And when I think of you, I don't think of you as someone that has that, like, I am a warrior Spartan wanting to dominate so I can make my name, like the Achilles, like I want to make my name in history.
Wow, Kev is saying you look like a wimp.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. Don't come kick my ass.
He's disrespecting you.
The point I'm trying to ask here, the question I want to ask here is like, that's a motivating thing for these guys, and it's a very powerful motivating thing because a lot of these guys, they're not going to make a lot of money to them to get the UFC, but you have to have that drive to want to say, I want to be great. I want to stamp myself no matter what. What is it that motivates you to want to go out and do the crazy things you're doing?
I don't know. Like, I kind of ask myself that, every weight cut. I'm like, all right, what are the reasons that I'm doing this for? Because this sucks, and it's just like, again, I think it's like the self motivation of like, I just want to see how far I can go, and kind of, that was my thing at the amateur level. Was I was like, oh, I want to see, how good I am, and that's kind of the thing at the end of the day is everybody can say like, oh, I want to be a world champion. Oh, I want to, be the greatest of all time. But like, there's such a, I don't know, that's such a small goal to try to reach. And I just kind of, my mentality has always been, I want to see how good I am. And the UFC is kind of, that top tier. And it's kind of where you figure out how good you actually are in comparison to, some of the best guys in the world. So I just kind of try to take it like fight by fight. And, each one of those is a step up, and I don't know. I just try to take it that same like fight by fight and try to see, all right, am I good enough to be at this level? Okay, now am I good enough to be at that level? And that's just kind of how I've done it personally.
That's cool, man. It's interesting to hear that because I'm curious about that myself because it's like, you got to be a little nuts to get in that cage. You do. I mean, I tell everybody that all the time. You got to be a little bit off. I mean, even the act of striking in general. When we talk about striking, you're like, you have to be okay with getting punched in the face. There's no other way around it. Like, and it's a weird thing because it's so counterintuitive to go in and throw a combination. Like, you have to accept the fact that you're going to get clipped a little bit here and there, but you have to know that my combinations are going to be stronger, harder, and faster so that I'm going to be able to elicit more damage than you're doing, and you make minor adjustments. There's no way around. If you're afraid of getting punched, you're never going to be able to throw punches correctly. So, like, I'm always amazed, and it takes a lot of odd psychological deficiencies a lot of times to want to be able to be cool with that.
Yeah.
And when I see you, I don't see that. I just see some kid that's just like, I want to go, I'm going to go play video games when I get done here, like you said, after your last fight. And all this like that. Like, I'm just wondering what inside of you makes you do that.
Come on. I know you love Red Dead Redemption, Kev.
I do. It was a fun game. So I guess one more thing I wanted to ask you is like,
I'm really sorry, but we're kind of running on a little bit of time, at least on my end.
Cool.
So obviously we're gonna have him back, and now that we've all gotten on the same call, we're gonna have all of us from the beginning the next time. The next time you rip someone's leg apart, Chase, you got to come back. But before you go, I would love to know. It's very early. You're not even a full week. I think just over a week removed from the fight. Any immediate future plans as in terms of competition?
Right now I'm kind of more focused on the, just tuning everything up. Because obviously I did get the win, but it's like, there's definitely like a checklist of things that I want to, improve on and make sure that I, am kind of getting better at before I decide to kind of move on to the next fight. And, so that's kind of my main thing is I just kind of want to get better at the areas that I was lacking. Being more offensive with the striking, controlling the distance more, kind of, being a little snappier, trying to, position myself so that I can get the power in the punches and get the guys to respect me a little more on the feet. And I just feel like that's kind of, my mentality right now, because the thing is the fights aren't getting easier. So there's they're not even staying at the same level. So I need to kind of, keep stepping up my game with each fight. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Well, kid, man, right. I think you have plenty of opportunities to do that. And sorry, Kev, I'm very excited.
No worries, man.
Yeah. I literally, as an MMA coach and someone that coaches a lot of fighters, like, I'm sure your coaches are amazing too, but like those things you're saying are exactly the things that I would suggest you do in the long run. You keep going and just understand the fact that you got a long, long way to go, kid. Like, as far as like your lifeline in the jiu-jitsu or in the MMA world. So keep training, keep getting better. I'm super excited to see you start to fill those holes in your game and stoked to see what it comes up with, man.
Thank you.
Yeah,
who knows, man? Maybe one day you'll be even a big deal in Seattle. Like make it in the big city. No, I'm a dick. All right. Well, Chase, thank you so much for joining us here for another episode of the JJT podcast. Kev, thank you for swooping in and providing some of your more veteran insight. I was burning fumes, honestly. This guy's very scary to talk to. Chase, real quick, any shout outs, any sponsors you wanna put out there to the world?
No, I'm good. My Instagram, CHOOP556, Twitter, Chase_Hooper. That's about it for me.
All right. By the way, also at KBrads_BJJ and at Uncle Coach Kevin for like a trio of quality Instagram content. Go follow, obviously, because none of this matters if we don't have Instagram clout. All right. But that being said, this has been another episode of the JJT podcast. Chase, thank you so much. I've been your host, Kevin Bradley, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Kevin Gallagher. Everybody, we're coming up on the holiday, like the big holiday, the end of 2020. We made it, everybody. So just be safe, be grateful for your loved ones, and train responsibly, keep everybody healthy. That's it. Get out of here. Go. Get out of here.